Welcome to The Weekly. I'm Jeremy.
I'm Chris.
And this week on The Weekly, board game publishers scammed.
Okay.
Fantasy Star for tabletop.
I am uninterested because I already looked at this.
Oh, yes. Etsy now sells AI.
Last time I buy anything from Etsy.
Right. And sexist Gary Gygax.
Filed under not news, right? Okay.
Oh, that's old?
That's old news.
Put that in the old category. But first, breaking news.
Honestly, guys like me can't leave soon enough.
Oh, that got used what, twice?
Yeah, I know. It's now we retire it forever. Well, we could keep watching. It just doesn't have the same meaning.
Okay, like I'm interrupting here, but like watching for something to happen, cool. After it happens and you keep watching, kind of gets a bit
kind of gets weird.
creepy, kind of gets weird, right? Then you're just watching, like why?
Why are you still following me on social media? Anyhow, well, I got a tip from Miguel, and I wanted to take a look at the LinkedIn page of a certain Kyle
Why
Brink.
in God's name would you ever go to LinkedIn?
So supposedly this would have been the 531st day, but there's tissue there if you need it. But
because I would be crying, right? Okay.
Yeah, the clock has stopped. No. We're no longer
Stop
counting.
the clock.
3 black halflings are celebrating that the thing that they talked to that was going to soon be leaving the industry has left. Mm-hmm. So yes, and let's find confirmation of that. So scroll, and of course let's look at the name that he chose for his LinkedIn, Gamesmith.
But I mean, like, okay, you know what?
But the first job is real estate scammer and hot tub owner. We can go through that later. But yeah, so he obviously made this at a much later date. So if we go down, look at that, Wizards of the Coast, executive producer. Wait a minute, May. It ends. It has an end date, May 2024. So he's the
1 year, 11 months.
Yeah,
I was trying to figure out. I'm like July 2020.
Yeah, so he's the executive producer of D&D. Yeah, so Kyle snuck away in the middle of the night. Yeah, so right under his biography, former executive producer. And so Kyle Brink is no more. He kept his promise. He's returned to the mothership, as all of the people of his kind do, because they're leaving. They're not only leaving Wizards of the Coast, they're leaving the industry and possibly the planet. I mean, he didn't clarify, so we'll be leaving.
He didn't clarify, so we're just making bullshit up, apparently.
Because people of his kind. But just as I think we touched on this back when we first our focus came upon him, but he's worked for some of the shittiest companies in video games forever, and I don't know how Wizards of the Coast. I guess they were looking at digital, like people that came from, PC gaming and console gaming backgrounds, because he worked for NCSoft, a horrible company, AreaNet, a horrible company, and then I have to do more here, don't I? All the positions, and but the thing that everybody loves that we eventually get down to is he was at Sega when Sega was trying to develop domestically in North America. That didn't go well. And Activision, another shit video game company. Cryptic, okay, well that's not the worst thing in the world. But president and owner of Brentwood Pool and Spa Inc. So he was the president owner of a jacuzzi hot tub dealership in Brentwood, California.
Hey man, everyone has to start somewhere, right?
Well, yeah, that sounds like Daddy started you somewhere, and maybe he sold OJ his hot tub.
I don't know. Okay, you know what? If my dad was in a position to leave me with some kind of business or some kind of company that I could run,
you just point at a business and he buys it for you. Yeah.
If I had the ability to do that, I would have done so. Right.
I see. Yes, but a very, very enjoyable read if you want to go through this wacky LinkedIn.
For certain definitions of enjoyable.
Yeah, so he came out of the game industry right into Wizards and was lingered for a few years, made plenty of mistakes, but it's great his description of everything he was able to do
at Wizards.
At Wizards, including the OGL situation in early 2023, and he met all committed release dates. So. Hooray for him. And the weird thing is the two things that he brags about are the Dragonlance board game and the Deck of Many Things. And I think both of those were incredible failures.
I mean, who's to say?
What are you naming this? Oh, Kyle. But so Farewell, Kyle. The mothership
The Brink watch is over?
Yeah, the Brink watch is over. Yes, right. Our watch has ended.
Yeah.
Yes. We'll lay down our swords and allow him. So I don't have. There was a little bit of news. A woman is replacing him, but I don't know any details about her background or anything.
I bet it's computer games.
Find out. It's probably another Microsoft employee or something. But we'll see. But I can't tell just from looking at her. I can't. I'm not going to assume her race or anything. But I don't think Kyle got his wish. I don't think anybody with the correct criteria replaced him. So we'll see. So she'll be probably departing on that ship soon. But it seems like management isn't really very diverse at Wizard. So I guess I don't know what we were hoping for. But farewell, Kyle. And Brinkwatch is over. Hope you enjoyed all of that nonsense. But yes. So so that's our exciting news for the 1,000th episode. Yeah, Matt even said, bet they hired a video game person. Yeah, if they're going to hire somebody from Activision and Electronic Arts, like some of the shittiest companies, they're obviously going to get that real corporate scumbag. But I mean, but they take orders.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, right? It's a corporation. You don't necessarily, at certain levels of the corporation, and I'm probably at one of them, you don't want people who are creative. You just want people who kind of get things done or do things, or at least have the ability to look like they get things done, right?
Right. Yeah. And I wonder if we were actually counting down the Headhunters job search days, like right after they subjected Kyle to that, like they made him the front man for the OGL, and he's just like, I got to get out of here.
Well, you know what? I know nothing about him. Whatever. Maybe. Right? Like if you were smart enough, you're like, wow, I'm taking the fall on this. Okay, time to start looking around, right?
This is how they see me. Great. Yeah, falling on his sword. Well, farewell, Kyle. And we're going to dry our tears later, but let's move on to more exciting news. So scammers impersonating an 80,000 member board game Facebook group have gotten free games. Oh
okay.
God, how could this have happened? So somebody was impersonating. There is an actual manager, like a head, an organizer of one of these Facebook groups. So one was a 30 member, and another one was an 82,000 member community page.
Sorry, that's 30,000 member and 82,000 member community pages.
Yeah, these are so board game enthusiasts.
Right. Okay.
So the board game revolution, I think, and someone impersonated them. Impersonated the person heading, which I have their name, and sent emails to all these publishers and said, we're moving into reviews, so please send us review copies. And immediately some of the publishers, like Renegade, working for Hasbro, immediately started shipping stuff out. So and they even were able to obtain a Bestiaria of Sigillium collector's edition.
Okay.
So anyhow, they were asking about collaborations. They were impersonating Thomas Covert. So Thomas Covert is the organizer of the Board Game Revolutions, and there was he immediately found this out. So it was only just a few days, but things had already been sent.
Right.
So
it's not like something that had been going on for a long time.
No, it had just kind of started. And the one person from Crowd Games, which was one of the game studios that sent copies out, said, I know Thomas and I know the Board Game Revolution community, so I only asked him about examples of reviews, and he answered that it's a new idea and so on. So I'm in a very high workload with our upcoming Kickstarter campaign now, so I decided just to send him a box and see what happened. And unfortunately, those games are now all on eBay, I'm sure.
Maybe.
Yeah, so
didn't really think about that.
So it's funny that these companies, so that they Daily Magic, another game company that sent games, also has its own case of imposter syndrome online, where a fake Instagram account based in Nigeria was contacting reviewers and publishers on their behalf, but just to dox them, just to get personal information and check business checking accounts. So maybe saying, we'll send you this, but we'll have to bill you for it. Please send us your checking account. So they have hired, Covert says for Board Game Revolution, they've hired a private investigator to track some of the packages. The locations of some of the packages sent were California, Louisiana, and Florida. So if we catch them, we will prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law, as this is not only identity theft, but now involves mail fraud.
And if Seinfeld has taught me anything, mail fraud is pretty serious.
Yeah, right. It's federal. And so this reminds me, I keep seeing these stories. Have you seen these organized Lego theft rings?
I have not, but I wanted to hear more, so I know how to get in on one.
That's where you would be working. Yeah, so it's just people that shoplift, like the $500 Lego sets. It's probably just the kind of grab and dash kind of stuff. But it's for an organized thing, and they're just like, they've got this whole online business going on where it's all stolen Legos because the profit margin is, especially if it's stolen,
right?
so high because the price that sales price on these things are insane. Right. So this reminded me of that. It's like board games were getting enough attention. There's enough people interested, and especially if you get a hold of like some special version or an early version. If you're getting a review copy and you throw that up on an auction site or whatever,
so
you're going to get.
I can kind of understand like. If you have something that's going to be released, right, you getting word of mouth out there as early as possible is like it's advertising, right? Mm-hmm. And for the cost of shipping a game or something, like you could have a lot of good PR, right? So I think that's why it was maybe not a good scam, but why I see it working, right? Like, before this releases, quick turnaround, let's just send this out real quick so it kind of information gets out there quick. And we don't kind of research the person, possibly. Right?
They're just, I think, a little bit lazy.
Or they're just overwhelmed. Like, we're trying to do all this Kickstarter stuff. Cool, just send them off.
Yeah, because that's what one company said. They got a Kickstarter coming up. We barely had time to focus on anything else. Sure, here's a copy.
Yeah.
And so this reminded me, though, because this is a dead thing now, but do you remember the cutout bin at record stores?
No.
Okay, so there used to be... When you go to a record store buying vinyl records, let's go back a half a century. You're buying you're buying vinyl records, and they would have a cutout bin, and so it looks like the covers of the LP just in the corner are nicked with a circular saw.
Okay.
And these are promotional copies that went out to radio stations and were just kind of handed out to magazine music reviewers and stuff. And of course, those assholes immediately sold them, but the stores couldn't sell them for full price, so they sold them for like a flat, like $5 or like a discounted rate. But that happened also with cassettes. I think it may have died with CDs. I don't know if cutouts ever maintained they didn't damage the preview copies. I think you basically got an untouched, like pristine copy of a CD. So probably if you bought used CDs back in the 90s, you're probably buying a lot of review copies from radio stations and stuff. But that's like, that's exactly the thinking here. Is just like, let's pretend we're doing fake reviews so we can just sell the results. Because they're willing. Because like you said, that's part of their marketing budget. That's part of their promotion. They want to get the word out. So you can prey on that. But I think there's enough, and especially with now social media and how everything's going to be digital, it's much easier to put a stop to that thing. It would be. It's not just a phone number that is suddenly disconnected.
Gone are the days where you could just like write someone with a letter and request a new social security number.
Right. Put some cash in the envelope as well. Yes. Mm-hmm. So scams aplenty. So I guess that means board gaming is big enough that it's attracting the scammers.
Well, let me know when people are doing that with D&D books.
Okay. Any moment now. Well, they'll be digital soon, so they've missed their chance. All right, so your personal favorite, Phantasy Star, has come to the tabletop now. So we've got a new RPG. So it's Skydawn Studios is doing a tabletop RPG for Phantasy Star. So Phantasy Star is a old school, I guess like late 80s. Okay. It was the early, so very old school Sega RPG, in JRPG, very JRPG. And so it had many single player versions, and then they did an online MMO.
I think that's the only one I played.
And Sega did some amazing things with the MMO where they screwed up the save file so bad they were corrupting people's hard drives and things. They were really
didn't hear about that.
They really handled the updates and things for Phantasy Star Online badly. But you can enter the world of Phantasy Star, and they have the spaceships, the androids, the mags, and sentient active embodiments of evil known as Dark Fowls, or maybe it's katakana, so it's Dark Force. I don't know, but either way,
I don't know.
So either way, you can. So this is all coming from Skydawn. So this is expected next year, so 2025. But if you join their mailing list, there's going to be an exciting announcement on August 15th about whatever they're doing. So head over to Skydawn and see what their newsletter is all about. So, of course, a cooperative storytelling game where you and your friends take on the roles of heroic protagonists in the boundless universe based on the popular Phantasy Star video game series. So it's interesting that Sega thought, well, maybe it was a real cheap license.
Maybe.
Yeah. So how will this game work? Well, funny you should ask.
I didn't.
It's a sci-fi adaptation of 5e. Yay. So using the Esper Genesis rule system. So in the early days of 5e, I guess like around 2017, somebody did a sci-fi kind of kit bash of 5e, and it endured the OGL debacle. So it's here for you to play. So two of your favorite things together are
I got nothing against Phantasy Star, honestly. Like, I didn't play it. I haven't played it enough at all to form any kind of opinion. But I already saw this, and I'm like, oh, of course it's powered by 5e, right? Of course.
Yes. But yeah, back in the days of Esper Genesis. So yeah, we'll see how that does. I think that might be a mistake. So you can build a diverse cast of characters using your favorite archetypes, such as hunters, rangers, or mystics, or forge a hero of your own design, or play the legendary personas of Alice, Landau, Rolf, Lutz, and Chaz Ashley. The best JRPG names ever.
Okay.
Yeah, so everybody knows those characters. But yeah, it's got, you still see people playing it in the old game streams and stuff. So it still has and I'm sure in Japan it still has quite a following.
Like you know what? I don't know. I don't know how much they had to pay for this license or whatever. But I mean, it might. Who knows, right? It might have been negligible enough where they're like, yeah, okay, you know what? I'm sure the people who own Phantasy Star license are like, yeah, whatever, right? Like, we get money from this license, and if enough people sell it, right, we might get a bit more, right?
And if there's some art assets and stuff, that would make it worth it for just, kind of collectors and fans, is just to have a nice book of kind of collected art from some of the character designs and stuff. Yeah, those low poly model screen grabs would be great. Yeah. Oh, but anyhow, so another page in the history, the history leading up to the Butlerian Jihad. So humanity's war against the machines. Etsy has now chosen a side.
The wrong side, right?
Yes. So AI art is now allowed to be sold on Etsy in a new policy announcement.
Before I hear this policy, I'm really wondering how you can... Well, I was wondering how you could sell AI art, because like courts have already ruled like it's non-copyrightable, right? So I mean, but I guess that is why you can sell it, because there is no copyright. So it's kind of like the old like books like Dracula or Frankenstein that are like in the public domain, and you just kind of, publishers just say, okay, here's a version of it. You want to pay it for it?
Yeah, I don't know. And I'm surprised Etsy has really kind of gotten out of control. And I think just to stay competitive, they're kind of allowing, because this used to be like where you went to get your handmade cosplay things and your jewelry and like things that were actually made by like amateur artisans.
Weird taxidermy stuff.
Oh yeah, right.
Like it
used to be a kind of an interesting collection of strange makers and creators doing stuff, and now I think it's just because like 3D printing really overtook it. So there's like so many people selling miniatures and dice.
I guess that I don't know if I mind that as much. It's like, sure, my feeling is like, okay, you've kind of set yourself up as a business, right? Like if I had a 3D printer thing, you set yourself up as a business, and maybe I don't want to do the back end stuff, so I'll just let Etsy do it. But I do agree, kind of like Kickstarter, Etsy has become something wasn't intended to be in spirit, right?
Yeah, and it's got and similar to Kickstarter, it's got such good discovery, because if you can't get noticed on social media, you can't get your SEO working so that people are finding your stuff, finding your website. Etsy will put it right on the front page, and you're a recommended seller. As long as you're in good favor, like you don't have any complaints, you get like a higher status, which means they promote you.
I also think that means, I don't know. I've heard or I've seen people saying, please don't click on my Etsy ad because Etsy takes a bigger chunk. Like if it's one of those featured or promoted
that
things.
May be the case. But that still helps discovery, because the order. If they're a returning customer, I think that would help you. So a number of items on the website are now consist of AI art. So I don't know if this is like digital goods or if it's actually like printed images. So customers have been asking Etsy for clarification on its position, and they've just recently announced their policy on AI art. people can sell AI art on Etsy, but the website has some specific limitations. So most things on Etsy are, you have to label them. So they're either labeled handmade or they're labeled designed. So designed is a drawing, an illustration, something that you didn't make yourself, but perhaps like, printed a drawing or had some company do something. So you didn't make it with your hands, you drew it on with your mouse. I don't know, but so they had those two specifications, and now they're going to count. They said they're considering, this is the great line of their policy, they're considering that there's enough human input going into AI art that they can count it as being designed by a human.
That's just that's ridiculous.
Yes, it's like about 12 keystrokes. Yeah, that's ridiculous. That was designed by a human.
Especially if they're counting like computer stuff, right? Like I understand. Okay, handmade. I physically carved this. I sculpted this. I did the stuff. But I mean, like digital, like drawing something with your Syntec pen, right? That's still kind of handmade, right? You still
you're interfacing just a digital tool.
Like sometimes the computer or whatever, it's just a tool the same way like a chisel is a tool, right? So I don't know, like they should have, you know what they should have done? They should have made, and this is if they actually wanted to be ethical and not just make more money, they should have made like an AI generated category.
Right. Well, yeah, that does come up where they allow it because of these classifications, but then their policy elaborates. So permitted examples of this might include a fantasy scene based on a seller's original prompt or inputs produced by an AI generator, or a custom portrait of a buyer's pet generated by AI tools. But sellers must disclose within their listing description of the item that it is created with the use of AI. So it's not going to be like part of maybe the tagging or whatever, but in the description you can say AI was used. So so this gets weirder.
Yeah.
But the website will no longer allow people to sell AI prompts. So
hallelujah.
They used to sell, so available on Etsy used to be, I guess, a text file, like a flat text file with a comma delimited text file of collections of prompts that users could use to create images on generative AI machines like Midjourney. So a listing of, this, not this, not this. Yeah.
Big titty anime waifu in cowgirl bikini.
Did you sell it? Did you? I'll buy that.
I could have made a fortune by selling that, right?
Yes. So yes, selling a prompt for someone else's use is no longer considered designed by. Whatever. They're just.
I have to.
Yeah, they're just greedy as hell.
I have to wonder why. If design, like what I just said, right? Like I'm using this keyboard to type in the prompts that I have come up with myself, right? That was designed by a human, right? That's designed by a human.
It's very short fiction.
It is very short fiction, right? I mean, it's not even a narrative, right?
Right.
Anyway, I mean, geez, I don't know.
Yeah, so it's weird, but so that's where they're standing, and I think they're just going to be flooded by garbage now. It was probably.
But do they care?
No, they don't, because if it raises their and like you said, if they're getting a higher cut by stuff they're sponsoring, they're just going to let that noise and trash exist, and they're just not going to touch it. They'll just be taking their piece if people are buying it. So they so they stressed that in their marketplace they want to they share their mission to keep commerce human, and we're committed to using the power of business and technology to strengthen communities and empower people. Sure, whatever. I mean, all of these sites, Kickstarter and Patreon, all these sites, they have that stance of like, this is giving power to the people and letting people do things that otherwise, and they've just been co-opted, and once they see where the real money lies, then all of a sudden that kind of bullshit stance, fades away. Yeah. So after carefully considering the complex issues surrounding AI-generated content, we've decided to continue to allow sellers to use their original prompts in combination with AI tools to create artwork that they sell on Etsy. So we believe this decision aligns with our values in supporting artists through the evolution of art. But
I don't know, man. We've already talked feelings about like whether AI is like art or not, and it's not. I mean, I suppose a very charitable. What am I trying to say? A very charitable reading would be Midjourney and all those ones are a tool that you are using to produce something, right? Cool. It's valid. Maybe use tools that haven't stolen untold billions worth of gigabytes of other people's stuff, right? Like when you pick up a chisel or a pencil or whatever, it's not like, I've now stolen everyone's work, right? With all this. No, I think that's where it falls down, where you talking about AI generating things as a tool. Yes, it is a tool,
but not ethical.
Yeah, not ethical.
Right.
By any means,
yeah. So I think, but that's going to be the problem now that all of the major, graphics programs are incorporating AI that they trained on things that they get no permission. Artwork, right. So we're running into all of it. So everything basically that's going to be produced in the newest versions of the software is going to be AI generated to some extent. And so everyone's hands are going to be dirty. There's all digital art is just corrupted now by this. And even Canva, the people that bought, so they're already. So I
forget. Oh, Canva. Yeah, that's right. Canva bought Seraph, which is the Affinity Suite. Yeah,
right. And they're trying to how can we skirt around the AI issue and still put it in our software? So they're trying to figure out, without getting bad press, how to incorporate AI tools. So it's inevitable. I mean, we can't escape it, and
doesn't mean we have to accept it.
No, that's true. And you can literally stop updating your Photoshop. It's like, okay, what version exactly did you start incorporating this crap? Okay, well, I'm going to use
and then Adobe will just reach through the internet to turn off your thing.
Right.
That's part of why I had done the Affinity Suite, right, by Sarah. It was that one purchase, no subscription.
Yes.
Forever, and then recently after I bought it, they went to version 2, which okay, right? You gotta update the software. Then when I saw that, oh man, they bought by Canva, I'm like, what does this mean? I don't know. Just kind of waiting to see. It's been a long time since I booted up any of this software, but it's still kind of
So that sucks, and it's just going to continue to get weirder and worse. But at least you can't sell your prompts anymore. I can't believe that was a thing. On Etsy, that's right. There's a trading. There's this crazy trade of text files.
I'm imagining a very dystopian. You know what? Here's a new story seed for Enmity.
Oh yes. Oh yeah.
A dystopian future where people pay everything in AI prompts.
Oh,
right. That's become the currency. That's the currency,
right?
And you can even push it out. It's not even digital anymore. It's you've got their food replicator, so it almost kind of becomes you're doing recipes or anyway,
And if there's some way to use the blockchain to become the owner of that set of prompts, then this is mine. I have ownership, I have copyright of these.
If you go to the basement of the Louvre and look on the back of the door of the broom closet, there'll be a note handwritten by me that says I own the Mona Lisa, and it's that's what the fucking blockchain is, bro. No one who's not on the blockchain gives a shit whether or not this says you own it or not. Anyway, I think I broke Jeremy with that.
Nice. Yeah, so we'll continue to keep you updated, but consider it's all going bad.
Yeah.
And so for this next, I think this last story, we have to put on our spacesuits, right? And we have to take that classic meme pose where I'm going to be looking at that making of D&D book, and I'm going to be reading the disclaimer in it.
Okay.
And you're going to have a handgun pointed at my brainstem, right? Yep. So something like this, right? So I'm reading this disclaimer, and I say, what? Gary Gygax was sexist?
It always has been, all the way down, right? This is not news. Right?
So yes. So I figured we touch on this because the book is out, the big tome is out that reproduces unedited and with all the notes and stuff in the margins the original draft of so the name of the book that Wizards is producing is The Making of Original Dungeons and Dragons 1970 to 1977. So never before original draft of D&D crafted by Gary Gygax on his home typewriter with both Gygax and Arneson's annotations and corrections. And the preface, I think, is the problem. I think people wrote introductions, and one of them is no longer working at Wizards of the Coast. So, I'm glad they're clearing out. But one of the so this is what's kind of frustrated people is they've and sadly enough, it was John Peterson involved in this as well. And the reason that this kind of came up and became a bit of a fight on social media is Peterson is a good kind of archivist of the history of tabletop and has done really extensive, really good work. I mean, his writing is very dry, but really thorough. And now Wizards has got him, so they're using him to for credibility,
Right.
I would suppose. But yes, so there in the preface, there's things like, some of the language created in the glory days of 1977 is presented warts and all, kind of like the Warner Brothers disclaimer that the streaming services are using. But there's a lot of things in early D&D, like they pointed out, there's just co-option of intellectual property. There's hobbits and balrogs and ents from Middle Earth in there, but they also talk about in this introduction the insensitive or derogatory terms and the sexist language. So people it's like they're buying the people that would buy this book that are interested in this don't need to be told that, don't want to hear that. That's not interesting. It's not like a there's not the theater kids and the children aren't going to be opening this book and going, oh, I'm shocked and horrified by how terrible these people were. If you don't know that already, if you don't know where this came from, what the hell are you participating in this hobby?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
It's crazy. But so the thing that brought more attention to this is Ben Riggs, the writer of Slaying the Dragon, kind of did a lengthy social media post kind of sounding off on, and I think we've kind of suggested this, but his the thing that he said, and it was a really, really long post for Twitter, the key to kind of looking at this thing as a whole is preserving this whole legacy, like knowing where this came from. Because if you're going to sanitize this and pretend like this didn't happen, of course that's good for Wizards of the Coast. That'll keep them clean and safe from any sort of criticism. But as a whole, to see the evolution of this hobby and to know where it came from, to know the thinking, is important. So that was the name of his post was the D&D co-creator Gary Gygax was sexist, and talking about it is a key to preserving his legacy. So it's just part of it. And so he went on to talk about this, and so early D&D, like they treated very lightly slavery, disparaged women, and also gave hit points to Hindu gods and things that so in the disclaimer, and it was this, and they're just using their standard disclaimer that they put on the DM's Guild and everything. These depictions were wrong then, and they are wrong today. The content is presented as originally created, because otherwise would have been the same as claiming these prejudices never existed. Right. And so, and the sad thing is that means, like, Peterson, and they're kind of endorsing this, the way that they're treating this, and it would have been nice for them to kind of, in an academic way, in the kind of archivist way that they're dealing with this material, talked about that. And I think, and the other thing that instead of that back in the day, or things were different then, it is important to kind of understand context, because there's all the forces that created this stuff. These are marginalized guys that didn't have great social
Use the I word. Use the I word, though.
Social life. That were, these guys would have been playing poker, or they would have been betting on football, or they would have been, and you notice in any of the photos, archival photos, there's not beer cans on the tables of any of this early. This is Wisconsin. Okay. Everyone is soaked in beer in Wisconsin. And so these are not guys that would, conform to any norm. So that's the place. So they're trying to make their own space, and it's just like, this is like nerd locker room talk, to be misogynist, to be, prejudiced, to let your, like, just ugly, ugly provocative stuff out. And so that was their space, and now we're going into that space and saying, oh, I can't believe it's not like we're using that to, I guess, because the way that they're treating this, and the way Wizards is treating this, is the origin of the Bible. This is the origin of the thing that all of everything that they're doing is based on. So it has to be pure, and it has to be translated from this pure source.
But I think that's okay. Mm-hmm. You can turn that meme off, because
sorry.
I think that's kind of the problem. I would argue that's kind of the problem, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I agree. Okay, like, we're just going to present this, like, the whole thing, warts and all, is key to kind of, I don't know if preserving the legacy, but it's like sanitizing it is kind of the same as pretending it didn't happen. And it did, right? Kind of like you said, those Warner Brother cartoon thing. But I think with D&D in particular, I feel like the original D&D does get held up, like, as the Bible, and Gygax gets presented as this, like, messiah, like, perfect messiah of, like, how to run a game, how to do all this stuff, right? So I don't know, I think that's part of the problem, where it's like, no, man, he was terrible. Right, like whatever he came up with, like he himself maybe was not.
But
right.
I think if you were alive then, you wouldn't have seen him as terrible.
Oh,
there's no way. There's no way you would have seen
that question.
Yeah, right. But I mean, because I was alive at that time, and I know that I would not have. I would have seen him as those were very normal opinions, because that was, and people are forgetting, like, especially with this, like, the sexism charge. Okay, so specifically look at this. Things were changing socially so rapidly with the relationships with men and women entering the workplace, women's freedom with birth control pill, reproductive rights, like things were changing so much. It was freaking guys the fuck out, just like gay rights and things in the 90s were freaking people out. So these reactions are very natural for the first time the culture ever had to deal with this. And so to say, I can't believe, and also the interesting thing, like there's a quote in here where Gygax refers to himself as sexist.
Yeah, I read that quote, yeah.
Yeah, it's not like that was I mean, I don't think racist was used, but bigoted was used. So people would call themselves, I'm a bigot, I'm sexist, because they did have views that I don't think men and women are equal, and that's all of what feminism and women's lib was working against. But that was a stand, but it wasn't. They weren't actively working to, burn houses down of single women or anything. That's
that's kind of helped me reiterate my point. And I think I'm going to have to go soon.
Sure.
Okay, sure. Irregardless of whether or not those views were seen as normal for the time they were in, and I agree, context does matter. It's not then anymore.
Right. Oh, yes. Right.
So I think part of the problem, at least the way I look at it, is, like I said, Gary Gygax still gets held up as like the father of RPGs. Like this thing kind of gets held up as the Bible. And yes, times have progressed. So I think, or I wonder if it's far too easy for people who have the relatively extreme views and who will go burn down people's houses and whatever to point to this and say, look, the father of RPGs was also this way. Therefore, now in 2024, I am also correct for having these views. When the answer is no, you're fucking not.
I think that's very correct. I think that's very important to say. This doesn't justify anything, especially with modern day sensibilities and how people should be treating each other. You can't look back at this and say, oh, there we go. Now
I'm validated for having these views, right? Yeah.
Whites only RPG
no girls
tables
at the table, right?
Male,
unless you're going to play like the tavern wench that we all tag team, right? Because Gary Gygax said it was okay. When you're like, dude,
right.
Yeah.
And I think that is a problem with the deification or the the creators of these things. Like, we really loved the thing that they crafted, but looking at them as a person, and Lovecraft and everybody, you
I know, man.
But looking at all of that, it goes back into that. It's like, okay, well, if you want to separate yourself from all of this, you have to do that, and we have to be thankful that there is a thriving RPG community it was inspired by D&D, but it has evolved past that.
Has it?
Yeah. I feel the indie RPG scene. I mean,
if only we're big enough, and if only Phantasy Star wasn't using fucking.
Yes, but so the hobby has changed, and I think it's good to be able to be honest about where it came from and the kind of minds that it came from, and and really think about if it would have come from, if this type of gaming, this kind of social activity would have come from a gay space, how would it have been any different? It would have been just as prejudiced against straight. Yeah, but against the straight. It would be very interesting. But all hypothetical. But I don't think they were just making this weird space for themselves, and they created an interesting form of entertainment from that. And I don't think, I don't think it's.
Well, now I don't have time to discuss it, but now I'm wondering if, like, okay, we have this like weird space where we're all kind of comfortable, and then it becomes mainstream, kind of like lots of other people doing it. Is there some kind of responsibility to, I'm going to use a poor word here, like sanitize it or whatever, like,
well, to sell it, you do. I mean, because there was a quote that wasn't in here, but the one where Gygax calls himself sexist and talks about like the kind of biological differences between men and women, but he also says, I think the question was, can you make D&D for girls? And he says, well, no, like look at like Lionel Trains tried to make pink trains for girls, and that doesn't work. If we created this and we created this for ourselves, and I don't think, and he goes into his biological reasons, but he says we didn't create this for girls, so it's not going to be attractive to them. But that's not, the game that was originally created is not the thing that is attractive to women now. And now there are tables of majority women, if not all women,
playing D&D, goddammit.
Playing D&D. And Chris wants to stop that. You're going to burn down those tables.
I am. It breaks my soul to see like people sharing like, check out this OC of this D&D character I drew. Right? We all just kind of role playing. Like, why in God's name are you wasting it on that murder simulator?
Yes.
Right? But okay, yes, fair enough, right? Like you're not really, without extensive marketing or people on the team, you're not really going to be able to design something that is appealing to kind of people outside yourself beyond a certain thing, right? Like, okay, I'll have to go look at the context, but yeah, I will agree that Gary Gygax would not be able to make D&D for girls.
Yeah, right.
With those views, right? Yeah. So kudos to him for saying, you know what, I won't be able to make one, right?
Yes, right. Yeah. So it looks like there's a couple pages of this giant tome you can just kind of tear out, because it's like, if you need to be told this, you shouldn't even have bought this book in the first place.
Unfortunately, I think with a lot of stuff, we're at the point where like, you would think people don't need to be told this. Unfortunately, you do. So how about we just tear those pages out and staple them to your head, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but it almost, I don't know, it feels like like lawyers are telling them to do that or something, that it's not even like for the sake of people being treated better in the hobby or the hobby to be more inclusive. It's just lawyers saying that you need to include this. But where can people find you?
On Blue Sky, Instagram, or sometimes Threads when I remember to cross-post stuff, and a very few select Facebook groups, mostly miniature-based. Frostgrave, Stargrave, and little 6mm and 2mm stuff. But
nice. Oh yeah, did you see Atlantic War Games Atlantic is doing they've got their little
and I am horribly uninterested in Samurai era.
It's all Japan.
But they
did
tease like Agent Core stuff, and I'm like, those look pretty cool. 10mm is exactly between the 6 I already have and the 15 I already have. So I don't like. It's like, here's another scale for you to start, and I'm like, I don't.
Yes.
Cool. Can't do it, right? Unless they come up with something awesome, or unless the price is like really good, because it is the appeal. Like, like the box that you get like hundreds, of miniatures, which you need for such a small scale. But
right.
I think it's going to be priced better than Warlord Games, not Hail Caesar, like their quasi 12-15mm like Punic War stuff, right? Yeah. Anyway,
cool. All right, and it's going to be a wait for some more cartooning online. So look forward to the August live stream for Abusecartoons. That's what I'm doing. So Abusecartoons, and that'll be live on this channel as well, just to disorient everybody and confuse people. What the hell is going on?
We're diversifying.
Yes. And if you like what we're doing here on the weekly, consider becoming a weekling.
The strongest of all supporters.
You could do that at patreon.com/upturntable, and just basically tell us what you want to hear about. More Gygax,
less Gygax, more Kyle,
more Fantasy Star. Yeah, right. And so no more Kyle, unfortunately. So everyone that pledged at the Kyle level, I'm sorry, we're gonna have to refund your money.
I didn't say that. Sorry.
Yes, and the Kyle emojis and everything are useless now. They're useless. But I'll upload the bumper if you want to, like, for nostalgia's sake, watch our little Brink Watch bumper. You can enjoy that. So yes, Upturntable on all social media, and upturntable.com, of course, for everything that we're doing. YouTube and Twitch is where we live stream, and this will go up on the full audio of this goes up on Patreon on the RSS feed, and a cleaned up version goes onto your favorite podcast
catcher of choice
platform. Yes. All right. So thanks for listening and watching, and we'll see you next week.
Later, mortals.
Goodbye.